months from now. Elections are essentially upon us. There's a common and a known reference that political pundits and commentators use from time to time to characterize the cut and thrust of the politics. You will often hear people making mention, listeners, of the nature of politics being one where politicians campaign in poetry but govern in prose. Campaign in poetry and govern in prose. Prose being P-R-O-S-E. That turn of phrase is simply taken to mean that on the political platform, politicians are in the habit of and are given to saying things that sound attractive to an electorate. And not just saying things that are attractive to an electorate, but saying some things that are, quite frankly, not in order, or they're not going to be able to fulfill. And when reference is made to governing in prose, it essentially speaks to a different dynamic where, notwithstanding the sweet nothings that you spoke on the campaign trail, meaning when you were in poetry mode, you have to pivot away from that apparently when you come to government and you come to the wicket and you find that you have to govern. And governing has to happen within the context of the resources that you have at your disposal. Human resources, assets and equipment, but particularly financial resources. Yes? Now, the country recently had its budget exercise. And among other things, we learned coming out of the budget process that the parliamentary opposition, the folks who are seeking essentially to have you vote for them to form government, they did not really come with a budget. What they came with was a wish list, because that's all you can call it. Because a budget has to have some bearing on the financial realities that confront the country. And so we had the budget debate, but we also had the debate on the appropriations bill in the Senate. And as a senator, I brought some perspectives when I made my contribution to the debate in the Senate. And I'm going to just cite a couple of examples, because what we have seen from the parliamentary opposition, listeners, is an attempt to essentially campaign in poetry and then pivot away from poetry to prose mode. By that I mean, for several months now, the opposition PNP has essentially been saying things, promising to do things that sound very nice to the ear, and it's calculated, it's designed for that particular effect. It's designed to have persons being attracted. So they speak, for example, to providing a meal, a free meal, to students at schools. But what has happened is that we are now at a point, listeners, where the opposition PNP is cognizant that they are being pressed for credibility. In other words, don't just say the things that you intend to do if you were to be elected to government in this country. Show us the numbers and demonstrate to us that it will be credible. So there's an interesting little pivot that I have picked up, and there's a little pivot that is going on now. Because prior to now, the PNP has been on the campaign trail speaking in poetry. But now they have to be moderating themselves, and they are now in prose mode. Because the truth is, the searchlights are now on. They are now under scrutiny, feet being held to the fire and so on. And they are trying to suppress the true cost of the things that they are promising or have promised. I'm going to share a couple with you. Speaking at the PNP's annual conference in September of 2024, this was on Sunday, September 15. Yeah? Some of you listeners may recall that famous "What Can Go So" speech by my KC brother, Senator Damian Crawford. Among other things, Damian is quoted, or can be quoted, speaking at the conference last year as having said the following: "The first thing we are going to do is make sure we have boarding facilities for at least 30% of our school population. And then we are going to give 1 meal per child in school." Yeah? That's what he said. But to go further, in more recent months and weeks, speaking at a PNP rally in Southwest St. Anne, where the PNP presented its designated standard bearer, Senator Damian Crawford, my good friend, can be quoted as having said the following: "On the campaign trail, I want you to remind the people that we are having an election between 1 meal per child in school and 3 meals per adult in prison. The JLP will tell you you cannot afford to give every child a meal, but when they get into trouble," meaning the child, "they find 3 meals for an adult." I'm going to read that quote again. "On the campaign trail, I want you to remind the people that we are having an election between 1 meal per child in school and 3 meals per adult in prison. The JLP will tell you you cannot afford to give every child a meal, but when they get into trouble, they find 3 meals for an adult." That's the end of the quote. And just to remember, the September quote spoke about boarding facilities for at least 30% of our school population. So the point Damon was making is that owing to absenteeism, which is something we don't want, yes, no government would want that, he and the PNP are committing to boarding facilities. So he was speaking in September of last year when he mentioned this. If you notice today, in March 2025, indeed now April 2025, there's no more mention of boarding facilities. They know that the boarding facilities that Damien referenced in September 2024 will have a significant price tag attached to it. And they are in price tag trouble right now. So they don't bother mention that. So the boarding facilities, though they were promising it a few months ago, that has now come off the table. What was being promised in September and in January of this year was a meal solution, 1 meal per child every day. They have since switched that up and are saying 1 meal per needy child. So when they were in poetry mode, the promise was grand, and it was designed to be grand because it had to register with people. It had to attract people. The idea was for people to be drawn to it because it's a good thing. Any government would want to be able to provide a meal solution. But remember now, government works based on building up the resources and the capacity to do all of the wonderful things we dream about and aspire toward. Yes? So in Jamaica's case, based on some of the challenges we have had in yesteryears, we are not at a place really where we can readily afford to give all of the 400,000 plus students in our primary and secondary schools, yes, a meal. But that didn't constrain the PNP when they were making the promise. They are now constrained, but what is constraining them now is the microscope-like scrutiny that they are under. Their feet is now being held to the fire, and so they have to be moderating their promises. And so, what was being promised as a meal for every child, which is the 440,000 children that Damian Crawford says are at the primary and secondary level, they have since changed that to 246,000 students, which they, according to Damian Crawford, contend coincide with the 55 or 56% of persons that the FAO study of recent times identified as being at risk of food insecurity in Jamaica. So the Food and Agriculture Organization, it's an agency, as it were, of the United Nations, FAO. The FAO did a study apparently in Jamaica, and their study finds that just about 55.6% of the Jamaican population is at risk of food insecurity. That's what the study says. So using that metric, Damian Crawford is saying, well, it is safe to surmise that just about 55% of our student population are to be considered as being needy. And therefore, when he multiplies the 246,000 students at the primary and secondary level by $400, which he places the meal solution at, and when you multiply that by 190 feeding days, because essentially, listeners, there are some 190 days in every school year, in every academic year, September through to June, July, you essentially come up with 190 days. So when you do that arithmetic, the 246,000 by $400 by 190 feeding days, Damian Crawford gets a figure of $18 billion. That's a price tag for his meal solution to needy students. But that is not what they were promising. What they have done is walk back what they were promising. And based on the quotes that I've read, and I'll read the quotes again, the first thing we're going to make sure we have boarding facilities. The first thing we're going to do is make sure we have boarding facilities for at least 30% of our school population. And then we're going to give one meal per child in school. This was when he was speaking in that famous What Can Go So speech in September 2025. But in January 2025, speaking in Southwest St. Anne when they were presenting their candidate for that space, Crawford can be quoted here as saying, "On the campaign trail, I want you to remind the people that we are having an election between 1 meal per child in school and 3 meals per adult in prison. The JLP will tell you you cannot afford to give every child a meal, but when the child gets into trouble, they find 3 meals for an adult." It's every child the gentleman was talking about. So how come? Yeah? What can go so? What has caused the change now? A convenient change, quite frankly. You're pivoting from poetry to prose, and you know why. You have to try and suppress, you have to try and moderate the price tag, because you know that what you were promising earlier or previously is not something that the government would not want to do. Of course, any government would want to give a meal solution to every child. So in principle, the JLP, Andrew Holness, Marlon Morgan, we're not averse to delivering a meal solution to every child in our school system. The fiscal realities of the country, however, do not make that possible at this time. But that will obviously be an ambition and an aspiration of the government. And that's why we're continuing to manage the affairs of the country responsibly, so that you can build up the resources, build up the government revenue, grow the economy, and generate levels of revenue that will allow you to do precisely this. Because we all know the link between nutrition and desired education outcomes. Children don't learn and do well on empty tummies. We know that. Yes? And so, just to leave you with this real number, when you multiply the 440,000 youngsters who are at the primary and secondary level by the $400 per day over the 190 feeding days, instead of the $18 billion cited by Damon Crawford, it is actually $33.5 billion. Jamaica is simply not able to sustain that at this time. It's not something that is problematic in principle. In principle, any caring government, any capable government would want to do this, in principle. Yes? But it is a $33.5 billion price tag. That is what they were promising. But what they have done is to walk back what they were promising, to come with this $18 billion price tag as a clever and underhanded way of trying to suppress the true costs of their election promises. We'll run to the break and take some of your calls. So do hit us up on 212-9824. Phone lines are open. Call us 212-9824. And there's also 462-0919. So just to run back the numbers in terms of my arithmetic a while ago, using the Goodley Senator's numbers, there are 440,000 students at the primary and secondary level, he says. And the costs, as far as they are concerned, for a reasonable meal solution would be $400, which I too find to be reasonable. But we know there are some 190 feeding days. Yeah? So when you multiply that 440,000 youngsters by the $400 over 190 feeding days, you come up with $33.5 billion. And that is what Damon Crawford and the PNP were promising. Not needy students. They were promising every student. What they have done is to walk it back. Together we have a call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Morning, my senator. How are you?
I'm good, sir. And you?
Well, I'm good after listening to you.
Very well.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling so good since you have been talking about walking back.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, we have much to go around, So like the first 100 days, we will implement a new election date. And that has not come after how many years, When you speak about walking back, like leaving your house and your business and your shop, and if you are open because there will be no crime or violence. There will be improvised violence. You see, and then he supervised and he's the Prime Minister of the most crime and the most murder in Jamaica. You see, Marlon, when you spend time on these petty things, believing that people is going to vote for them, people have so much. It's not the mainstream media that people listen to, They listen to people like me who have the facts and can give them.
All right, so since they listen to people like you, right?
Yes.
Tell them what is happening. Come on, sleeping with windows. Sir, don't talk while me talk. You were speaking a while ago, and I allowed you to speak. Me I start speak now. So watch me now, General. Reference to sleeping with windows and doors open speaks to what? What do you understand by that?
Have you ever learned at school spoken words?
Let me answer so that you don't detain us unduly.
Yes.
Sleeping with windows and doors open is an expression of an aspiration of a Jamaica that we want to return to. A Jamaica in which we were living so harmoniously, policing was so effective, and crime was not so prevalent in the country that people who don't have to be living behind burglar bars or living in ways that would suggest that we are at civil war or indeed living in a war-torn country as they are in Haiti right now. Yeah?
Right.
So just to be clear, my friend, because you said people listen to people like you. Since people listen to people like you, I want you to tell them. Hold on, just a moment, sir. I want you to tell the people.
You are saying something from the Prime Minister who never said that. So let me just dismiss that. When you are saying, you are trying to put some narrative and a different spin power. You can't spin up with me. You must be a master spin. You are the president, so what you call deception when we want to. So nobody come and say with it.
You mentioned just now that people listen to you.
If you say nobody come and say this evening.
Sir, you mentioned just now that people listen to you.
Is that when you itemize and talk about people walk back, how the Minister of Education not had the kind of corruption when Minister lock up and then friends and family lock up, we could have feed not only 3 times a day, but we could have given supper too. Yes, children could have given supper. Over $1.6 billion being stolen for the Ministry of Education. 1.6 billion, and that is, and the CNU over $3.7 billion, and we could have feed every child 4 times a day. So they're going to try to hear church, but everybody now listen to that. And I'm on the street, and I'm educating the people that these little field doctors will come with these little fancy talk and talking about what kind of the figure. Let them answer the question, what happened to education.
What you must know, you address the issue that has been placed on the agenda. I have made mention of an attempted walkback, albeit a feeble attempt. What you must do now, yeah, is to address that issue. Why has the promise changed from giving each child a meal to needy child a meal? Why has it changed? Because feet are being held to the fire, no sir?
No promise has changed, Marlon. All that has happened is that when you make making promises or plans, or proposal, right, or commitment, you have to look at it. Just like Donald Trump are doing foolishness and I tell you, say, boy, I need to benefit it. The people have America benefits and they must get $2 million a day are coming in America. And yes, still, people don't see it, don't feel it. People have been suffering under it. So when you're making this proposal, as you go along, you can make adjustment because depending on its environment and the situation, nothing is cast in stone. Because if you are Malaho for police, someone was cast in stone. The Malaho for come out at the website, you believe that government only has 21%. And not Malaho government is financing. Hold
a moment. Because we have a conversation, sir. You made mention of something a while ago, and I am proceeding to ask you this. Do you believe that government and political life in a country is such a patty shop that you can pivot from saying something in one moment to saying something else in another moment, just like that? So in other words, what was your promise predicated on in the first place?
And the time of the day, you can do that.
What was your promise predicated on in the first place?
You want me to name me 1,216 things that this government said they don't do it? Then what tell me? I know something like that too. And you will be embarrassed. They said that they want to have corruption free. And we have the most corruption. They said that just the thought of corruption,
coming back to the substantive point, because you're moving away from the point we were making earlier. Yes? So coming back to the substantive point.
Well, you made mention
you made mention that people don't listen to traditional media need, they listen to influential people like you. Now, I'm affording you an opportunity this morning to share with Jamaicans how much has crime gone down by year over year since the start of 2025. I want you to tell them, since they listen to people like you.
Something. How
much has crime been reduced by?
Go and tell Miss Lily where they lose them son. I'm
not talking about that. I'm asking you a simple question, and that is not the answer we're looking for.
I don't know how no crime gone down. All the time when people are dead in, and businessmen are getting shot in a hotel.
Well, let me tell you, because I know you were not going to answer. That's why I asked you.
And that you like
so crime has gone down 36% since the start of the year.
That's a figure. That's a no figure. Not this much will lose our son. Not this much will lose our son and agree. Go and tell her that. Go and tell her that we lose my son and tell her what
down. And we express condolences to Miss Matty this morning, Al.
Remember, I'm the Prime Minister. Dr. Andrew Willis, I heard the sound of dead baby crying. Yes.
Right. So take it easy, Al. We have to run now. But let me just remind you
Since that baby crying, over 6,000 baby dead in the hospital. I will not baby crying.
There are 36% less murders since the start of 2025. We know that there are some Jamaicans, many of you who wear orange shirts this morning, who are not comfortable with the sustained reduction in murders. I would say that unequivocally, because there are those among us who would have preferred to, if needs be, swim in the blood of their Jamaican brothers and sisters if it means taking them to Jamaica House. We are unequivocal on that point, Al. 36% reduction in murders, and the police commissioner is resolute. The government, I dare say, is also steadfast and resolute in supporting the police, and the police commissioner is resolved. Yes, his resolve and endeavor is to sustain the reductions we are seeing in murders, whether some people at Old Hope Road like it or not. You will not have the ability in the weeks ahead to campaign on murders. You will not be able to swim in the blood of your Jamaican brothers and sisters in a bid to get to Jamaica House. That will not be keeping this time around. So try and understand that. 36% reduction in murders, whether Al likes it or not. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Yes, sir. Morning, Mr. Morgan.
Morning, Mr. Milton.
Yes, sir. You catch my voice quick. Anyway, you know, last Monday I told your colleague, Mr.
O'Brien,
that you have assumed the chair at New Start 93 FM. The political boss gonna get hot, you know. So you can see the start of it, right?
Well, Beyonce asked a question in song some time ago. Can you keep up?
Can you keep up?
No, well, that's a question. You just made a comment.
I don't know if you say a man, or you
so
say a man sometime
later. Beyonce posed some time ago. Can you keep up?
Anyway.
Go ahead.
Yes. All right. Let me just cut a long story short. You were talking to the last. They were talking about somebody promised something today and tomorrow and change, and them voice and say something different.
Yeah, man. That is Damon Crawford I was referring to. Your phone broke up, Sir Milton. No. Go. Say that again, Sir Milton. You were at a good spot a while ago, Milton, but you seem to have shifted and your phone, the call is breaking up a bit. See if you can go back to where you were initially, please, at the start of the call.
Continue to break up?
Yeah, you're a bit better now, my brother.
Yeah, what I was saying now, prior to this 16th general election, during the campaign, Mr. Wallace promised us of things, you know.
Many of which have been done, and some are still underway.
Few years after, he told us that it's not everything politicians promise you, you must believe that he or she will deliver. So you tell the man, say,
no, man.
The PNP change, then tune, and the man making no say it depends on the circumstances and the time, and you're trying to
let us reason it out,
no, man, you must be careful, Mr. Mark,
no, man,
respect, man.
Let us reason it out, Milton.
If the university shouldn't use it name as a political campaign.
Milton, you have called into the program and we want to have a discussion, right? Because you have raised something very important and I want to walk you through it.
Go ahead
now. You can cite examples as to promises according to you that have been made and have not been fulfilled, right? What I'm saying to you here now.
No, it's not a matter of promise made that have been fulfilled now. The gentleman who told us that and everything undertaking and commitment. Then why did he say it? Because he want to gain power?
No. Milton, he was making that reference as he was speaking descriptively of what obtains in the politics. He wasn't speaking to himself or of himself.
All right, big man.
But we all know he was making a general statement. Milton. I just want to walk through a scenario. I want us to walk through.
Mr. Andrew was making a general statement, right? But that could have applied to him. Based on the promise that he has made, he made a general statement. I agree with that, politics. So let me straighten you up now, right?
Go ahead and
but that could have applied to him because he did say something to that effect. Anyway.
I see. But before we get to the anyway, I wanted to walk you through a little scenario, Milton. Senator Damian Crawford was speaking at a PNP conference. By all indications, that conference would have been the last before general elections are held. Zin?
That's right.
So that's last year, man, 2024, September 2024. So that was a big occasion. Zin? The gentleman said, I'm going to quote him again, Milton. He said, the first thing we're going to do is make sure we have boarding facilities for at least 30% of our school population. And then we are going to give 1 meal per child in school. That's what he said in September of 2024. And on January 19, 2025, he said the following, Milton. On the campaign trail, I want you to remind the people that we are having an election between 1 meal per child in school and 3 meals per adult in prison. The JLP will tell you, you cannot afford to give every child a meal, but when they get into trouble, they find 3 meals for an adult. Is every child a gentleman talk about, Milton? So why all of a sudden them a walk it back to talk about needy children?
Politician walk back, big man. And that's what Andrew was trying to say. Right?
You know what I mean, walk back?
Yeah, politician generally sir. But you know that, Mr. Morgan. So nobody can cover up Mr. Warner. You know, say...
So politicians walk back all the time. Well, let me tell you what is being walked back on Milton. Some of the persons...
Just allow me now, big man.
Sure, all right, I'm going to allow you and then I speak.
Just allow.
Go ahead.
You and I know, so with the greatest respect, man. Mr. Walden's indiscretion in his political life over the years, sir. You and I know that there is left a lot to be desired, sir. So that argument don't defend Mr. Morgan. You and I should, we're not even have to go into detail, you know. It left a lot to be desired. Boy, what the difference now because Jamaica is too polarized.
Milton, your views and mine will diverge on that point. Milton,
so that you and I know that, big man. So
your views and mine will diverge on that matter.
Well, let me tell you, say again, sir. For them put up on there, the political battle gonna get hotter, sir, and we will talk next time, and thank you for listening.
Well,
and big up your producer for me, sir.
Yes, man, absolutely. Wonderful producer, competent, capable, and
yes,
very,
sir.
accommodating.
So remember that, man.
Yes,
a lot to be desired.
All right, my brother. But before you go, Milton, you spoke about walk back. You said the politicians walk back their promises.
Generally, sir. Yes, that's what Mr. Willis was alluding to when he said, yes, and you know that too. So,
talk at the same time.
Nobody upon Damian too much, you know.
So hold a moment, Milton. Hold a moment. Because I know he's your former MP. But just to be clear, Milton, there are some persons this morning, based on what some canvases are revealing right now, who are walking back any inclination they may have had to support a certain set of people. So it's the same like how promises are being walked back. Some people's inclination to have given you the nod is being walked back.
You know, your listeners notice that you have not you said nothing really, Mr. Holness, and they left a lot to be desired. I wonder why. They want that. See them link me attacks and so I'm going to respond to it.
They are linking you. But I just said to you in relation to that assertion that my views and yours diverge. You have made the point,
evidence, you know, because you know, if anyone have then Mr. Holness, they make him lie, throw down news talk long time.
Anyway, take it easy, Milton.
Yeah, and big up yourself, son. Remember the battle does start.
And tomorrow, so call back tomorrow again. We'll be on tomorrow. Call back tomorrow and let us keep the battle raging. Yeah? Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Morning, Marlon.
Morning.
Why you make all and when him I call you with the foolishness
because
every morning?
Our views have to contend. This is a public radio station in terms of a program on the public airwaves, and they have their views, you have your views, and as you saw with Milton a while ago, he has his views, and sometimes when they have misguided views, it is important to at least attempt to correct them in their misguided views.
You see when the other person up on there and them a campaign for PNP, you don't hear them come and talk, you know. You don't hear them come and talk this foolishness when them depend, you know.
Because him already sing for them, Sankey, man.
You understand me? This is foolishness, man. No, I don't tell you about your campaign. The other one not campaign.
Well, what are your views? Share your views, sister.
JUTC as usual.
Yes, ma'am.
You see the amount of money on the save from gas?
From the fuel, yes, very important.
All right. You see the driver them now. You see, if we don't go cashless tomorrow morning, we go over the $90 million.
Millions more. Yeah, because what you're saying is that, so just for the listeners who may not be aware of what you're alluding to, caller, the bus company JUTC has suffered from revenue leakage, what we call leakage, over many years. Theft of fuel is one of the issues, but also leakage at the collection point, the collection of money. Yes? People may run racket with it and so on, and that's why you're saying a card system, a cashless system provides greater revenue certainty and protection.
Exactly, because you see the driver them, if you not ask them, some of them for them, you have some decent, good drivers.
Yes,
you know,
yes, good
but
point
me
to
tell
make.
you something, if you not ask some of them for your ticket, you know, if you not have your card, you not ask some of them, sometime I'm evening time, I sit down at the bus. And let me tell you something, you know.
Yeah.
You see, from the bus left half a tree on the Hagley Park Road, everybody coming with $100. You don't hear a ticket bus.
Yeah. So the idea is that if the tickets are not issued, they don't have to account, as it were, for that fare.
No, and they don't have no ticket. They don't have no ticket. All the persons we have ticket is the one them we have them card, or the one them we ask for them ticket, or stand up and wait for them ticket. Me take the bus system every day and me see it to me too. And most of the time when me come out of the bus, me at the bus, me upset.
Because we know that theft on the part of misguided persons, some of whom have lost their jobs, by the way, and there's one of the check and balance mechanisms that the JUTC seeks to use, which is the inspectors, persons who come on the bus itself and walk through.
For the longest
you haven't seen them, people walking through and checking tickets.
When I see them, I am happy, but I've not seen an inspector
on the
bus for such a long time, and I've been taking the bus every day.
Yeah, so what I mean. Because the idea is that
I've
mechanism.
taking the bus, and I've not seen an inspector for the longest while, and it has to stop because JUTC, more people since the fare dropped, more people taking the bus.
That's true. And the point you're making is that if the JUTC's revenues are better protected, it will make more money available for the company to provide its service more efficiently.
More people to drive them,
yes.
and the bus company will run with surplus instead of the back. And another thing about it too, those people that wash the bus in the night, they're not doing a good job.
Oh, them just a pala the bus. Now what's it going?
They're not doing a job. You can see sometimes when you look outside, when you're in the bus and you look, you can see you can see the dirt and the cobwebs and all them something in the brand new bus.
So you're commending
not
to the...
in the bus, them, Marlon.
So the management of the JUTC is being advised this morning to pay more careful attention to the output, quality assurance in terms of the upkeep and washing and sanitation of the buses.
And another thing too, those nasty people that goes in the bus and eat and leave and drop the buckles and the papers at them foot, them need to stop it.
The JTC don't have a policy, quite frankly, where they say no eating.
But it's on in the bus running, eating in the bus, no eating or drinking in the bus. Clear as daylight. I mean, if I even that somebody can read.
Yeah. But you know, some folks are going to overlook.
Listen, some of these people that in the higher head on the JUTC, I may talk for Mr. Vows, no, because Mr. Vows is doing a good job and the government is doing a good job. No matter where the rest of them want to say, the government will do a good job. But the people that them employed not doing a good job.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And when that is the case, you have to have systems in place that serve as a quality assurance function and a check and balance.
Them to have people that inspect the bus and see that the bus them wash and the bus them clean and all them something there. Them don't have an inspector for that in the night.
Well, they should. I'm sure they do. The idea now is the degree to which people are doing it.
Something have to be done there because all them do are collect taxpayer money and do not. You see this lazy mentality about Jamaican people, and that's why the country can't move forward. Because them lazy and they want to sit down and collect money, and that's not okay to me. And me almost 100-year-old. And me still at work.
Seriously, you're near 100? Or you just exaggerating?
Me near 100 and me still at work.
Miss,
and you know the other thing,
you sound way too strong to be anywhere in the 90s.
Me hear the PNP them come out and talk about Andrew put on $1,000 for minimum wage. I do domestic work and I send my daughter to university. I send my daughter to university. She's a chartered accountant right now.
That's excellent.
I send her through university. You hear me, I tell you? And in PNP time, a 6,000 at the last time when Andrew take it $6,500, and it gone up to $16,500 now. You understand me?
Yeah.
And me glad for the little $1,000 we put on it, because me know say if Andrew put on more, my employer, a sufferer like me, she now can't employ me. She go cut me days.
That's a very good point, man, because the wage for a minimum wage earner comes up as an expense for a business operator or an employer. So it has to be a delicate balancing act. My point is, them a jump up about $1,000. And if Andrew put on $10,000, them now get up off of them behind go walk. Because them sit down and wait for the NIR money because spend it because I hit them start spending I understand. Partying with the rent money. We have to run to the 10 o'clock. We have to run to the NPR.
No problem.
But thanks for your input this morning, man.
Yeah, man.
All the best. Good. We run to the break and come back thereafter with more here on Straight Up. Stay with us.